Why does your daughter look exactly like me? The words cut through the silence like glass shattering on marble. I had worked in warehouses for 9 years. I had heard forklifts crash, pallets fall, men shout over machinery. But nothing had ever made my heart stop the way those 5 words did. We were standing on the 48th floor of Sterling Industries, a billion-dollar building made of glass and steel that reflected the morning sun like a mirror. And I was just a warehouse supervisor in a borrowed tie and scuffed work boots that squeaked against the polished marble floor every time I shifted my weight. My daughter Mia squeezed my hand tighter. She was 8 years old, small for her age, with hazel eyes that took in everything and a smile that could light up the darkest room. Right now, she wasn't smiling. She was looking up at the woman who had just asked that impossible question with the kind of careful attention she usually reserved for stray cats and broken things. Elena Sterling stood perfectly still near the floor to ceiling windows. The city skyline spread out behind her like a kingdom she owned. She was tall, composed, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her dark hair was pulled back in a way that made her look both severe and elegant. She had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers: sharp cheekbones, dark eyes, a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile somewhere along the way to the top. But right now, that composed CEO mask was cracking. Her coffee cup had stopped halfway to her lips and just hung there in the air, forgotten. Her other hand had moved to her collarbone fingers, pressed against the fabric of her blouse. She was staring at Mia like she was seeing a ghost. I didn't understand. Not yet. "Excuse me," I managed to say. My voice came out rougher than I intended. Elena didn't answer. She was still staring at my daughter, at the specific tilt of Mia's head when she was confused, at the almond shape of her eyes, at something I couldn't see because I had looked at Mia every single day for the past 8 years and saw only my daughter, my miracle, the child who had saved my life when I didn't think I had anything left to live for. "I'm sorry," Elena said, but she didn't sound sorry. She sounded like someone who had just had the ground ripped out from under them and was trying very hard not to fall. "I didn't mean to." She stopped, swallowed hard, set down the coffee cup with a hand that trembled just slightly. "Rachel," she said to the assistant who had led us into the boardroom. Her voice had changed. Gone was the warm CEO greeting. This was something else, something desperate and sharp. "Could you take Mia to see the trophy display? Maybe get her some juice?" Rachel was young, mid-20s, maybe wearing a navy suit that marked her as someone important, but not quite at the top. She looked confused by the sudden change in Elena's tone, but she was professional enough to hide it quickly. "Of course, Miss Sterling," she said, then smiled at Mia. "Would you like to see where we keep all the awards? We have one from 1987 that's taller than you are." Mia looked up at me. I could see the question in her eyes. I nodded, even though every instinct in my body was screaming at me to pick her up and walk out of this building and never come back. "Go ahead, sweetheart," I said. I'll be right here. Mia squeezed my hand one more time, then let go and followed Rachel out of the boardroom. She skipped a little as she walked her purple sneakers, the ones with the stars that lit up when she walked, flashing with each step. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded too loud in the sudden silence. The moment we were alone, Elena turned to me and I saw something I hadn't expected to see on the face of one of the most powerful women in the city: fear. I need you to tell me the truth, she said. Her voice was low, shaking slightly. Where did you get that child? My blood ran cold. Excuse me, that little girl, Elena whispered. And now I could hear the tears in her voice, even though her face was still dry. She's not biologically yours, is she? That's none of your business, I snapped. The words came out harder than I meant them to, but I didn't care. Every protective instinct I had was firing at once. This woman, this stranger, had no right to ask me that. Please, that single word changed everything. Because it wasn't a CEO speaking. It wasn't someone used to getting their way with authority and money. It was a woman on the edge of breaking, holding herself together by a thread so thin I could almost see it fraying in real time. I hesitated, looked at her face, saw something there that made me answer, even though I knew I shouldn't. No, I admitted quietly, I adopted her. Elena grabbed the edge of the massive conference table to steady herself. Her knuckles went white. For a second, I thought she might actually fall. How old was she when you found her? The words came out barely above a whisper. A few hours old. Maybe less. I don't know exactly. Where? In my taxi. I watched her face lose all its color. I was driving late shift. It was raining. I heard crying from the back seat when I pulled over to check my GPS. She was just there, wrapped in a hospital blanket with a bracelet pinned to the fabric. Elena's breathing became uneven. Her hand was still pressed to her collarbone, and I realized she was touching the same spot where Mia had a small birthmark. The same spot where now that I was looking, I could see the faint edge of something similar on Elena's skin, just visible above the collar of her blouse. Was there anything with her? Elena asked. Anything besides the blanket. I had carried it for 8 years. I didn't even know why. It was in my pocket, right now, the same pocket I'd kept it in since the night I found her. I pulled it out, a delicate silver bracelet, small enough to fit a baby's wrist, with a single letter engraved on the tiny nameplate: E. I placed it in Elena's outstretched hand. She stared at it like it might explode. Her fingers closed around it slowly, then, all at once, like she was afraid it would disappear if she didn't hold on tight enough. That was mine, she whispered. My mother gave it to me when I was 17. The floor felt like it was tilting under my feet. What are you saying? I asked, even though I already knew. Already felt it settling into my bones like ice water. Elena looked up at me. Tears were streaming down her face, now making tracks through makeup that had probably been perfect half an hour ago. 8 years ago, she said, and her voice broke on the words. I gave birth to a daughter. The room felt smaller, the walls closer, the air thinner. I was 28. I was building this company from the ground up. The board barely believed in me, as it was a woman CEO in a male dominated industry. I hid the pregnancy, wore baggy clothes, worked from home the last 2 months. I trusted one person to arrange everything: a private adoption, clean, legal. The baby would go to a good family who wanted her. She closed her eyes. Her name was Diane, my assistant. I trusted her with everything: my schedule, my passwords, my secrets. I told her I wanted a closed adoption. I didn't want to know who the family was. I thought it would be easier that way, easier to let go if I never knew. Elena's hand tightened around the bracelet. I held my baby for 10 minutes after she was born. 10 minutes. Then Diane told me the family was here, that it was time, that waiting would only make it harder. So I let her take my daughter. I watched her walk out of that clinic with my baby in her arms. And I told myself I was doing the right thing. She opened her eyes. They were devastated. 2 weeks later, I asked Diane how the adoption had gone, if the family was happy, if the baby was settling in okay. And Diane looked at me with this expression I'll never forget: guilt and panic all mixed together. She told me there was no family, that she'd sold my baby, that someone had paid her $50,000, and she'd handed over my daughter like she was a piece of furniture. My chest felt like someone had reached in and squeezed my heart. I tried to find her, Elena continued. I hired private investigators. I searched adoption records, hospital records, police reports. I offered rewards. I filed missing persons reports. But Diane had disappeared. The money trail went cold. And whoever had my baby, whoever paid Diane, they'd covered their tracks too well. After 6 months of searching, the investigators told me the trail was dead. That my daughter was probably out of the country by now. Probably with a family who had no idea she'd been stolen. She looked at me with eyes that held 8 years of grief. I thought she was dead, Elena whispered. For 8 years, I thought my daughter was dead. Or worse, that she was out there somewhere being raised by people who bought her like property. And there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, could barely breathe. Elena took a step toward me, then another, until she was close enough that I could see every tear track on her face. That birthmark, she said, the one on her collarbone, the shape of her eyes, the way she tilts her head when she's thinking. I've spent 8 years trying to forget those things. Trying to forget the 10 minutes I held my daughter before I lost her. She touched her own collarbone again. Same place, she said. Same mark. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. You think Mia is yours, I said. It wasn't a question. I know she is, Elena whispered. And the terrible thing, the thing that made my stomach drop and my hands go cold, was that I believed her. Because now that I was looking for it, I could see it too. The resemblance wasn't obvious. Mia didn't look like a miniature version of Elena, but the small things, the tilt of her head, the exact shade of her hazel eyes, the way her left eyebrow arched, just slightly higher than her right, when she was confused, those things were there. I'd just never had a reason to look for them before. We need a DNA test, Elena said softly. Please. No. The word came out automatically, defensively. Because if I said yes, if I agreed to the test, then I was admitting the possibility that Mia might not be mine. That the daughter I'd raised for 8 years, the child who'd saved me from drowning in grief when my wife died, might belong to someone else. Please, Elena said again. I'm not trying to take her from you. I know you raised her. I know you love her. I can see it in the way she looks at you, in the way she held your hand when she walked in here. I'm not trying to erase that. Her voice cracked. I just need to know if the child I've mourned for 8 years is alive. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Young voices, the other contest winners, arriving for the ceremony. The sound of normal life continuing while my entire world balanced on the edge of a knife. I looked at the bracelet in Elena's hand, at the single letter E catching the light. But then I thought about what she was asking, really asking. She wanted to confirm that Mia was hers. And if Mia was hers, then what? Did I lose my daughter? Did some court decide that biology mattered more than 8 years of love? No, I said again, more firmly this time. I'm not doing a DNA test. Mia is my daughter. I adopted her legally. I've raised her for 8 years. That's not going to change because you have a bracelet and a story. Elena flinched like I'd slapped her. Nathan, please. You walk in here with a bracelet and expect me to just hand over my daughter for testing. You expect me to risk losing her because you think she might be yours. I'm not asking you to hand her over. I'm asking for the truth. The truth. I felt anger rising in my chest, hot and protective and desperate. The truth is that I found a baby abandoned in my taxi 8 years ago. The truth is that I called the police immediately. The truth is that no one came for her. No one. For 6 months, she was in foster care, and no one claimed her. So I adopted her. I gave her a home. I gave her a name. I gave her everything I had. I was looking for her, Elena said, her voice breaking. I searched everywhere. I never stopped looking. Well, you didn't look hard enough. The words hung in the air between us. Cruel, unfair. But I didn't take them back. Elena's face went pale. You're right, she whispered. I didn't. And I have to live with that every single day. But that doesn't change the fact that she might be my daughter. That someone stole her from me. That I've spent 8 years grieving a child who might be alive. I wanted to feel sorry for her. Part of me did. But the larger part, the part that was Mia's father, couldn't afford sympathy right now. If you don't do the test, Elena said quietly, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering. And so will I. And one day, Mia will be old enough to wonder too. She'll ask questions about her birth mother. And what will you tell her? That you had the chance to find out the truth, but you were too afraid. The words hit like a physical blow. Because she was right. One day, Mia would ask. One day, she'd want to know where she came from. And if I'd had the chance to give her answers, and I'd refused out of fear, one test, I said finally. My voice sounded hollow. But Mia doesn't know. Not until we're sure. I won't have her caught in the middle of this if it turns out to be nothing. Elena nodded, wiping her face with trembling hands. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just arrange it. Quietly. And if the test comes back negative, you leave us alone. Forever. And if it's positive, I looked toward the door where Mia had disappeared. Then we figure it out. Together. But she stays with me. That's not negotiable. I understand. The ceremony was a blur. I stood at the back while Mia accepted her trophy, her face glowing with pride. Elena stood beside her on stage, smiling for the cameras, playing the role of the gracious CEO. No one watching would have guessed that her world had just shattered and reassembled itself into something unrecognizable. When it was over, Elena's assistant led us to a private office. A doctor arrived, discreet professional, carrying a small medical kit. Mia thought it was exciting when they explained it was a routine health screening for competition winners. The cheek swab took 30 seconds. Results in 48 hours, the doctor said quietly as he packed up his kit. 48 hours until I knew if my daughter was really mine, or if I'd been living on borrowed time all along. The next 2 days felt like drowning in slow motion. I went to work, moved boxes, filled out forms, talked to people, but I wasn't really there. I was in my head, running through every possible outcome, every potential future, every scenario where I lost Mia to a woman who had biology on her side. At home, I watched Mia like she might disappear if I looked away. She noticed, of course. Mia noticed everything. "You're being weird, Daddy," she said over dinner on the second night. "Just tired, Bug." She set down her fork and looked at me with those hazel eyes. Elena's eyes, I realized now, and the thought made me feel sick. "You always say that when something's wrong," she said. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I promise." She studied my face for another moment, then went back to her spaghetti. But I could tell she didn't believe me. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the couch in the dark and thought about Sarah. My wife had died 3 years ago. Leukemia. Fast and vicious and completely unfair. We'd been married for 5 years. We'd planned on starting a family. Then cancer took those plans and threw them away like garbage. She died in a hospital room with my hand in hers, and I thought that was the worst pain I'd ever feel. I'd been wrong, because 8 months after Sarah died, I found Mia crying in the back seat of my taxi on a rainy night. And suddenly, I had a reason to wake up in the morning again. Suddenly, I had someone who needed me. Someone to love when I thought I'd never love anyone again. Mia had saved my life, and now someone was trying to take her away. My phone buzzed at 2 in the afternoon on the second day. A text from Elena. "The results are in. Can we meet tonight?" After Mia's asleep. My hands started shaking. I read the message 3 times before I could make my fingers work well enough to type a response. "My apartment, 9 p.m. I'll be there." I picked Mia up from after school care like always. We stopped for ice cream, even though it was a weeknight. She chattered about her art class and her friend Hannah and how her teacher had said her painting was exceptional. "That's a big word," I said. "It means really, really good." "I know what it means, Bug. I'm impressed your teacher used it. She said I have natural talent." Mia swirled her spoon through her chocolate ice cream. "Do you think my birth mom was good at art?" The question came out of nowhere and hit me like a truck. "I don't know, sweetheart. Do you think about her sometimes?" "My birth mom? Sometimes."
Me too. Mia took another bite. I wonder if she thinks about me. I couldn't breathe. I'm sure she does. You think so? I think anyone who knew you would think about you. Mia smiled at that, went back to her ice cream. Didn't know that in 6 hours I'd find out if her birth mother had been thinking about her for 8 years straight. At 8:30, I tucked Mia into bed, read her a story about a princess who didn't need rescuing, kissed her forehead, told her I loved her. Love you too, Daddy, she mumbled, already half asleep. I stood in her doorway for a long time, just watching her breathe, memorizing the curve of her cheek and the way her hair spread across the pillow.
trying to hold on to this moment in case everything changed in the next hour. At 9 o'clock exactly, there was a soft knock on the door. Elena stood in the hallway wearing jeans and a plain sweater. No makeup, hair down. She looked younger like this, more human, more breakable. Hi, she said quietly. Come in. She stepped inside, and I was suddenly aware of how small my apartment was, how worn the furniture looked, how the carpet had stains that wouldn't come out, no matter how many times I shampooed it. But Elena didn't seem to notice. She just stood in the middle of my living room, holding a manila envelope like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Do you want to sit? I asked. She nodded. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the same couch where Mia and I watched movies on Friday nights, where I'd rocked her to sleep as a baby, where we'd built blanket forts and eaten popcorn for dinner. Elena looked at the envelope, then at me. Before I open this, she said, and her voice was shaking, I need you to know something. I meant what I said before. I'm not trying to take her from you. I know you're her father. I can see that. I just need to know if she's mine too. Open it, I said. Her hands trembled as she tore open the envelope, pulled out a single sheet of paper. Her eyes scanned the page once, twice, then filled with tears. 99.97% probability, she whispered. The world stopped. Mia is my daughter. The words echoed in the small apartment. I felt them settle into my bones, felt them change the shape of everything I knew. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it, could feel it in my throat, could taste it. Nathan, don't, I said. The word came out sharp. Because if she kept talking, if she said anything else, I was going to break. And I couldn't break. Not yet. Not when I needed to be strong. But Elena wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the paper in her hands, and she was crying. Not quiet tears. Deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere so far down they sounded like they were tearing her apart. I thought she was dead, she said between sobs. For 8 years I thought she was dead. She folded forward, paper clutched in her hands, and cried for everything she'd lost, for the 8 years she'd missed, for every birthday and first step and bedtime story she hadn't been there for. And something in me shifted. I'd been so focused on what I might lose that I hadn't really thought about what Elena had already lost. What it must have been like to hold your baby for 10 minutes and then watch her disappear, to spend 8 years searching for a ghost, to believe your child was dead, or worse. Without thinking, I reached out and put my hand on her shoulder. She turned toward me and buried her face in my chest, sobbing like the world was ending, and I held her.
This stranger who shared my daughter's DNA, this woman who had every legal right to Mia, but was falling apart in my living room instead of calling her lawyers. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault, I said quietly, but I should have. You couldn't have known. You trusted someone and they betrayed you. That's not on you. She pulled back slightly, looked at me with red, swollen eyes. What do we do now? I looked toward Mia's closed bedroom door. I don't know. I'm not going to take her from you, Elena said again. I need you to believe that. I know you're her father. I know she loves you. I'm not trying to change that. Then, what do you want? Elena wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater. I want to know her. I want to be part of her life. Even if it's just, I don't know, a friend, someone she can count on. I don't expect to replace you. I don't want to replace you. I just want a chance to love her. The honesty of it, the raw vulnerability, hit me like a wave. We need to tell her, I said. If we're going to do this, she needs to know the truth. When? I need time to figure out how to say it, how to explain it in a way that doesn't scare her, or confuse her, or make her think her entire life has been a lie. Elena nodded. Okay, however long you need. And when we do tell her, we tell her together. We make it clear that nothing's changing, that she's still mine, that you're just someone new who cares about her. Okay. And if she doesn't want a relationship with you, you have to accept that. We can't force this. I understand. We sat in silence for a moment. The DNA report sat on the coffee table between us like a bomb that had already gone off. Can I ask you something? Elena said quietly. Yeah. What was she like? As a baby. The question caught me off guard. You really want to know? I've missed 8 years. I want to know everything.
I so I told her about the first night I brought Mia home from foster care, about how she'd cried for 3 hours straight and I'd had no idea what to do, about the first time she smiled at me, really smiled, and how I'd cried because it felt like Sarah was telling me it was going to be okay. I told her about Mia's first word, Dada, her first steps in the grocery store, holding onto a shopping cart, her first day of school. She'd been terrified but too proud to admit it. Elena listened to every word like I was describing something sacred. And I realized this was sacred. These were the moments she'd never get back. The memories that belonged to me and Sarah and Mia, but never to her. Thank you, she whispered when I finished, for telling me, and for raising her, for loving her when I couldn't. I didn't do it for you, I know, but I'm grateful anyway. After Elena left, I went to Mia's room. She was fast asleep, her stuffed bear tucked under her chin. I sat on the edge of her bed and watched her breathe. In, out, in, out. Still mine. Still here. Still the little girl I'd found in my taxi 8 years ago. But also Elena's. Biologically. Legally, maybe. The thought made my chest tight. I thought about Sarah. About what she would say if she were here. She'd probably tell me I was being selfish, that Mia could have more love in her life, and that wasn't a threat. It was a gift. Sarah had always been better at this than me, better at being generous, better at seeing the bigger picture. I don't know what to do, I whispered to the empty room. Mia shifted in her sleep, reached out, and grabbed my hand without waking up, and I held on tight. Because whatever happened next, whatever Elena wanted, whatever the courts decided, whatever the future looked like, this was still true. I was Mia's father. And no DNA test could change that. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario, every outcome, every way this could go wrong. By morning, I'd made a decision. I called Elena at 7 a.m. She answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting. We need to talk, I said, before we tell Mia anything. Can you come over tonight? I'll be there. The day crawled by. Work was impossible. I kept thinking about what I was going to say, how I was going to explain it, whether I was making the right choice or the biggest mistake of my life. Elena arrived at 8 p.m. Same jeans, same sweater, same worried eyes. We sat at my kitchen table this time, more formal, more serious. I've been thinking about this all night, I said, about what's best for Mia. Elena nodded, waiting. And I think we shouldn't tell her. Elena blinked. What? Not that you're her biological mother, I clarified quickly. Not now. Maybe not ever. I don't understand. I took a deep breath.
Mia is 8 years old. She's happy, she's secure, she knows who she is. And if we tell her that her birth mother is alive, that someone stole her, that her entire origin story is different from what she thought, it's going to shake her foundation. It's going to make her question everything. But she deserves the truth. She deserves stability, I countered. She deserves to feel safe. And right now, she is safe. She has a good life. She doesn't need that disrupted because we want her to know the truth. Elena was quiet for a long moment. You want me to walk away? No, I said quickly. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe there's a middle ground. Maybe you don't have to be her biological mother. Maybe you can just be Elena. Someone who wants to be part of her life. A family friend. A mentor. You'd let me do that. Mia could use more people who care about her, I admitted. She doesn't have grandparents. My parents died in a car accident when I was 20. Sarah's parents want nothing to do with us because Mia's not their real granddaughter. So it's just me. And while I'd like to think I'm enough, I know she could benefit from having other adults in her life who care. Elena's eyes filled with tears. But you'd never tell her I'm her mother. Not unless you think it's absolutely necessary. Not unless she asks. And even then, we wait until she's old enough to process it without it destroying her sense of self. That could be years. I know. I'd have to watch her grow up, knowing she's mine, but not being able to claim her. Yes. Elena looked down at her hands. That's asking a lot. I know. But I'm asking anyway, because I think it's what's best for Mia. The silence stretched. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, could hear my own heartbeat. Finally, Elena looked up. Okay, I'll do it. I'll be just Elena, not her mother, just someone who cares about her. Relief flooded through me.
Really? If it means I get to know her at all? Yes, I'll take whatever you're willing to give me. There will be boundaries, I said. I'm still her father. I still make the decisions. You'd be more like an aunt, maybe, or a family friend. I can work with that. And if at any point I think you're overstepping, if I think you're trying to replace me or confuse her about who her parent is, I'll cut you off completely. Elena nodded. I understand. And you can't buy her expensive things. No extravagant gifts. No making me look bad because you have money and I don't. Fair. And we never ever tell her the truth unless we both agree it's necessary. This stays between us. Agreed. I leaned back in my chair, felt the weight of the decision settle over me. Okay then. Okay. So, how do we do this? How do we explain why you're suddenly in her life? Elena thought about it. We could say we became friends after the competition.
That I was impressed by her art and wanted to mentor her. That you and I discovered we had things in common and decided to stay in touch. That could work. And I'd just visit sometimes. Take her to museums, help with homework. Yeah, normal friend of the family stuff. Nothing that would make her suspicious. I can do that, Elena said. I can absolutely do that. But I could see the pain in her eyes, could see what this was costing her. To have found her daughter and to have to pretend she was just a friend, to watch from the sidelines instead of claiming her place. Thank you, I said quietly, for agreeing to this, for putting Mia first. She is first, Elena said simply. She always will be, even if she never knows I'm her mother. Saturday morning, I told Mia that Elena was coming over. Miss Sterling, why? We've been talking since the competition, I said, trying to sound casual. And she mentioned she'd like to spend time with you.
Help you with your art, maybe, if that's okay with you? Mia tilted her head. Like a mentor? Exactly like a mentor. Cool. She went back to her cereal. Can we still go to the park after? Of course, Bug. Elena arrived at 10 with bagels. 6 different kinds, because she still didn't know what Mia liked. Watching her stand nervously in my doorway, clutching a bakery box like a shield, I felt something soften in my chest. This woman had given up everything to be here. Her claim to Mia, her right to be called mother. All of it. Just for the chance to be part of Mia's life in some small way. That took a kind of strength I wasn't sure I could have mustered. Come in, I said. Mia's excited to see you. The morning went better than I'd hoped. Mia showed Elena her art supplies, her room, her favorite stuffed animals. Elena listened to every word like Mia was describing the secrets of the universe. They sat at the kitchen table and drew together. Elena taught Mia some basic shading techniques. Mia taught Elena how to draw a cat. The secret is to make the ears really pointy. I watched from the doorway and felt my throat get tight. This was my daughter getting to know her biological mother, and neither of them knew it. After Elena left, Mia looked up at me with bright eyes. I like her, Daddy. Can she come back if you want her to? I do. She's really good at art. And she's nice. Yeah, Buck, she is. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Elena would visit every other Saturday. Sometimes she'd take Mia to the art museum. Sometimes they'd just sit at my kitchen table and draw. She never overstepped, never bought extravagant gifts, never tried to replace me. She was just Elena, the family friend who was good at art and cared about Mia. And Mia loved her. I watched their relationship grow and felt a strange mix of gratitude and grief. Gratitude that Mia Ho had another person in her life who cared.
Grief that Elena could never tell Mia who she really was. One night, about a month into the arrangement, Elena stayed after Mia went to bed. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Do you ever regret it, agreeing to this, letting me into her life? I thought about it honestly. Sometimes I worry you'll change your mind, that you'll decide this isn't enough and you'll fight me for custody. I won't. How can you be sure? Because I've already lost her once, Elena said quietly. I'm not going to lose her again by being selfish. This arrangement, it's not what I dreamed of, but it's real. She's alive. She's happy. And I get to be part of that. That's more than I thought I'd ever have. It doesn't bother you that she calls me dad, but you're just Elena. Pain flashed across Elena's face. It bothers me every second of every day, but it's also right. You are her dad. I'm just. I'm the woman who was lucky enough to be let into her life, even though I don't deserve it.
You do deserve it. No, I don't. I gave her away. I trusted the wrong person. I let her be stolen. You're the one who found her, who saved her, who raised her. You deserve to be called dad. I don't deserve anything. Elena, but I'm grateful anyway, she continued, for every Saturday, for every museum trip, for every drawing session at your kitchen table. I'm grateful for all of it. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. And we sat in silence, two people connected by a child who belonged to both of us in different ways. A child who would probably never know the truth. And somehow, we both had to be okay with that. 3 months into our arrangement, Mia got sick. It started small, a cough, a low fever. I gave her medicine and kept her home from school. But by the second day, she was struggling to breathe. The hospital admitted her with pneumonia.
They put her in a room with machines that beeped and an oxygen tube in her nose and told me she'd be fine. She just needed rest and antibiotics and monitoring. But I'd been in rooms like this before. 3 years ago with Sarah, watching machines track her heartbeat and breathing while cancer ate her alive from the inside. I couldn't do this again. Couldn't sit in another hospital room watching another person I loved fight to breathe. My hands were shaking when I texted Elena. Mia's in the hospital. Pneumonia. She's stable, but I thought you should know. The response came 30 seconds later. Which hospital I'm coming? You don't have to. I'm already in my car. She arrived 40 minutes later, still in her work clothes, hair messy from running her hands through it. She took one look at Mia, pale and small in the hospital bed, and her face crumpled. How is she? She whispered. They say she'll be okay. Just needs to rest. Have you eaten? I'm not hungry.
Nathan, I'm not leaving her. Elena looked at me for a long moment. Then she left. I thought she'd gone home. But 20 minutes later, She came back with real coffee and real food from the deli down the street. Eat, she said. You can't take care of her if you fall apart. I wanted to argue, but she was right. So I ate the sandwich and drank the coffee and felt slightly more human. Elena sat in the other chair, both of us on opposite sides of Mia's bed, both holding one of her hands, like parents. You should go home, I said after a while. Get some sleep. I'll call you if anything changes. I'm staying. Elena, I'm staying. And she did, all night. While Mia slept and machines beeped and nurses came and went, Elena stayed. Around 3 a.m., I finally dozed off in my chair. When I woke up an hour later, I saw Elena sitting exactly where she'd been, still holding Mia's hand, tears streaming silently down her face. Hey, I said quietly. She wiped her eyes quickly. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. Are you okay? I'm fine. You're crying. I know. She looked at Mia. I just keep thinking about all the times she must have been sick when she was younger. All the nights you sat up with her, all the hospital visits and fevers and scary moments, and I wasn't there for any of it. You didn't know she was alive. I know, but it doesn't make it hurt less. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just reached across the bed and took her other hand. Squeezed once. She squeezed back. And we sat like that, connected through Mia holding each other up until the sun came up. Mia improved slowly. The fever broke. The breathing got easier. After 3 days, they said she could go home. Elena had been there for all of it, taking calls in the hallway, bringing me food, sitting with Mia so I could shower in the parents' bathroom. When we finally walked out of the hospital, Mia between us, Elena stopped on the sidewalk. Thank you, she said, for letting me be here. You didn't have to thank me. Yes, I did. You could have told me to stay away, but you didn't, and that means more than you know. Mia tugged on my hand. Daddy, I'm tired. I know, Bug. Let's get you home. Elena walked us to my car, helped me get Mia settled in the back seat. Can Elena come over tomorrow? Mia asked as I buckled her seatbelt. I looked at Elena. She looked back at me, hope written all over her face. If she wants to, I said. I want to, Elena said immediately. Okay then. As I drove home, Mia fell asleep in the back seat. I looked at her in the rearview mirror, pale but peaceful, and thought about the past 3 days. Elena had been there, every moment. Not because she had to be, not because Mia knew she was her mother, but because she cared. And I realized something. I'd been so focused on protecting Mia from the truth that I hadn't really thought about what I was protecting her from. Elena wasn't a threat. She was just a woman who loved Mia and wanted to be part of her life. Maybe that was enough. Maybe I didn't need to keep her at arm's length forever. Maybe there was room for all of us. That night, after Mia was tucked into bed, I texted Elena. Thank you for being there this week. It meant a lot. Of course. How is she sleeping? Finally comfortable. Good. Let me know if you need anything. I stared at my phone, then typed something I hadn't planned to say. I'm sorry, I've been keeping you at a distance. You've been nothing but respectful and kind. You deserve more credit than I've given you. The response took a few minutes. You were protecting your daughter. I understand that.
I don't blame you. Still, I could be more generous. You're already generous. You let me into her life at all. That's more than most people would do. She cares about you. You know that, right? I hope so. She does. She asks about you between visits, talks about the things you taught her. You matter to her. Another long pause. Thank you for telling me that. It means everything. I set my phone down and looked at the ceiling. This was working. Somehow, against all odds, this strange arrangement was actually working. Mia was happy. Elena was grateful. And I was learning to share the daughter I thought was mine alone. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't traditional. But maybe it was enough. 2 weeks later, Elena asked if she could take Mia to the art museum. Just the two of them. I said yes. It was harder than I thought it would be. Watching them walk to Elena's car together. Watching Mia wave goodbye without looking back. But I did it. And when they came back 3 hours later, Mia was glowing. Elena knows so much about art, Daddy.
She told me about this painter who was really poor but kept painting anyway because he loved it. And there was this sculpture made entirely out of spoons. And we got ice cream, even though it wasn't a special occasion. I looked at Elena over Mia's head. She was smiling, really smiling for the first time since I'd met her. Sounds like you had fun, I said. The best time, Mia said. Then she ran off to her room to put away her new sketchbook. A gift from the museum, Elena explained. Not from her personally, she was careful about the rules. Thank you, Elena said quietly, for trusting me with her. You earned it. And she had. Over the past 3 months, Elena had proven herself over and over. She'd respected boundaries. She'd put Mia first. She'd been patient and kind and everything I could have hoped for. She'd earned the right to be in Mia's life, even if Mia would never know why she was really there. 2 years passed. Mia turned 10. She grew taller, her art improved, she made new friends, and joined the school soccer team. She wasn't very good, but she loved it anyway. And through it all, Elena was there. Not as a parent, not as a mother, just as Elena, the family friend who came to soccer games and art shows, who helped with homework and brought bagels on Saturday mornings, who was there. Mia never questioned it. To her, Elena was just another adult in her life who cared, like a teacher or a coach or a neighbor. Nothing more, nothing less. But I saw what it cost Elena. Saw the way she'd look at Mia sometimes when Mia wasn't watching, with a longing so deep it hurt to witness. Saw the way her hands would shake slightly when Mia hugged her goodbye. Saw the tears she'd wipe away in her car before driving home. Are you okay? I asked her once after a particularly hard visit. I'm fine. Elena, I'm fine, Nathan. This is what I signed up for. I knew what I was agreeing to. But it's not fair to you.
She smiled sadly. Life isn't fair, but this getting to watch her grow up, getting to be part of her life in any way, that's more than fair. That's a gift. 1 year, Elena was offered a position in London, VP of European Operations, a massive promotion, everything she'd worked for. She turned it down without hesitation. When I found out, I confronted her. You can't keep giving up your career for this. I'm not giving up my career. I'm choosing what matters more. But London was your dream. No, Elena said quietly. Finding her was my dream. And I did. Everything else is just a job. I didn't know what to say to that. On Mia's 11th birthday, she asked a question that made my heart stop. Why don't I have a mom? We were sitting at the kitchen table. Elena was there. She'd become a fixture at birthday dinners. Mia was working on a family tree project for school. You know why, Bug? We've talked about this before. I know my birth mom couldn't keep me, but I don't understand why. Was she sick? Was she mean? Did she just not want me? Elena's face went pale. I took a deep breath. Your birth mom wanted you very much, but someone took you from her when you were born. We've told you this. I know, but I don't really understand it. Why would someone take a baby? Because people do terrible things sometimes. Is she still looking for me? The question hung in the air. Elena's hands were shaking under the table. I could see her fighting to keep her face neutral. I don't know, sweetheart. Do you think she'd want to meet me if she knew I was alive? I think she'd give anything to meet you. Mia nodded, looked at her family tree, at the space where mother should go. Can I put Elena here? She asked. Elena's breath caught. Mia, I started. I know she's not my mom, but she's kind of like one. She teaches me stuff and cares about me, and she's here all the time. Is it okay if I put her on my family tree? I looked at Elena. She was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. That's up to Elena, I said. Elena wiped her eyes. I'd be honored. Mia smiled and wrote Elena in the mother spot. Not mom. Just Elena. And somehow that made it more real. That night, after Mia went to bed, Elena stayed. Are you okay? I asked. She put me on her family tree. I know. Not as her mother, but still. Is that enough? Elena looked at me with red eyes. It has to be. We sat in silence for a while. Thank you, she said finally, for this, for letting me be part of her life, for understanding that I'm trying. You're doing more than trying. You're actually doing it. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I know, but it's worth it. Every second. Time kept moving. Mia grew, changed, became more herself. And Elena was there for all of it. When Mia got into her first fight at school, defending a smaller kid from a bully, Elena was the one who taught her about standing up for people without using violence. When Mia struggled with fractions, Elena stayed up late helping her understand. When Mia won another art competition, Elena was in the audience clapping louder than anyone. She became part of our lives so gradually that I almost didn't notice it happening. Until one day, I realized she wasn't just the family friend anymore. She was family. Not Mia's mother, not in any official way, but family nonetheless. Mia was 12 when she decided to paint her masterpiece. The theme was family for a national competition. She worked on it for weeks, wouldn't let anyone see it until it was done. When she finally revealed it, both Elena and I were there. The painting showed two figures, a man and a woman standing on opposite sides of a small girl, not pulling her, not fighting over her, just standing there, present. The girl in the middle had her arms outstretched, touching both of them. The title, Chosen. What's it about? I asked. Mia looked at both of us. It's about how family isn't about biology or who's supposed to be what. It's about people who choose to love you, who show up, who stay. She paused. I know I have a weird family. Other kids have a mom and a dad who live together. But I have a dad who's been there since the beginning. And I have Elena who chose to be part of my life, even though she didn't have to. That's my family. That's what I chose to paint. My throat felt too tight to speak. Elena was crying again. But this time, she was smiling too. It's perfect, I managed. You really think so? I know so. That's my girl, I said. Our girl, Elena corrected quietly. Mia looked at her. Yeah, our girl. The words hung in the air between us. Elena wasn't Mia's mother, not officially, not in any way that mattered to Mia, but she was something. Something important, something real. And maybe that was enough. That night, after Mia went to bed, Elena stopped at the door. Do you ever think about that first day? She asked. When I asked why she looked like me, every day. Me too. She looked back toward Mia's room. I thought finding her would be the end of my search. But it was just the beginning of learning what it really means to love someone. Which is putting them first, even when it hurts, even when it means not getting what you want. I stood up, walked to the door. You're a good mother, I said. Elena shook her head. No, I'm not her mother. You're her father. I'm just Elena. You're more than that. Maybe, but I'm okay with just being Elena. It's more than I thought I'd have. She stepped into the hallway, turned back once. Thank you, Nathan, for giving me this, for letting me be part of her life. Thank you for loving her enough to let me be her father.
After she left, I went to Mia's room, looked in at my daughter, 12 years old, now growing up so fast. The child I'd found in a taxi. The miracle who'd save me from drowning in grief. The daughter who taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard. And as I turned off the light, I thought about Elena's question from that first day. Why does your daughter look exactly like me? I still didn't have a perfect answer, but I knew this Mia looked like Elena because biology was real. But Mia was mine because love was stronger. And in the end, that was the only answer that mattered. The end.